It's week 4, and Jeff, just as we all predicted, the undefeated Indianapolis Colts head to LA to take on the Rams on Sunday. Welcome back to the BetCanada channel. Katie Caldwell, Jeff Lloyd back here with you. Let's get into and preview this game. Jeff, what are you expecting to see in this one?
Well, I think the thing you really like to see here is, can the Colts just continue to string it together? Because you're feeding off of Jonathan Taylor, who's been nothing but exceptional to this point. I think it's about 430 total yards through 3 games, 4 touchdowns. Here's a player that's always been, a fantastic
Yeah.
running back. But for the Colts, it's always been kind of about stringing together any type of consistent quarterback play. To go to your line of thinking to the intro here is who would have thought Daniel Jones would have been the name that would have provided the stability to that.
Yeah.
But you go back, and I guess it was what, 2022, where it was Saquon Barkley and it was Daniel Jones doing an incredible job for the New York Giants that led to going to the playoffs. I'm sorry, I think it was week 17,
Mm.
beating the Minnesota Vikings, then going back the following week to Minnesota in the playoffs. And they didn't just beat him that week, they actually trounced him that week. And then, which set off the whole weird odyssey of Daniel Jones and, falling out of favor in New York and the trust factor and all of this. And ironically enough, Jones goes and finishes 2024 wearing a baseball cap for the Minnesota Vikings and then goes, to Indianapolis. And we did this, and we talked about this with the Colts when we were doing preview issues was, what was going to be this team's reaction with no longer having Jim Irsay around? Was this
Mm.
something that was going to hurt the franchise? And, Jim, a flawed man, certainly had his own issues, but it was never in relation to the way he ran his team,
Right.
treated his personnel, treated his players. They were treated like gold by Jim Irsay,
Mhm.
literally. And you see that to this point from this team who was playing some very, very inspired ball. Certainly got a little luck week 2 against the Denver Broncos. It
Yeah.
was a penalty. It never gets called, but it was in fact a penalty.
Mhm.
That's one of those things where you don't try to do that if you're the road team, and if you do it at home and you get called, you're really aggravated,
Mhm.
but you try it on the road, you got called, and, you come back week 3, you go down and obviously, win another game against Tennessee. Daniel Jones has not turned the ball over yet. He is responsible for 3 touchdowns throwing, 3 touchdowns running. Warren has certainly been a fantastic addition because you certainly have Pittman. You certainly have Pierce, who are doing well. Josh Downs is
Mhm.
really getting comfortable now with a guy like Daniel Jones. So I think for the Colts right now, it's for me, I like this. This is kind of like a heat check, right? If I'm the
It
Colts,
is. Yep.
we're 3-0. Let's go play a really established team. And again, the Rams should have most likely beaten the Philadelphia Eagles last week.
Mhm.
So for this is a really good matchup for the Colts. And again, we get to this in certain divisions for the Colts, it's okay to have this heat test. You've
Mhm.
got, I believe everybody else in the division. I mean, you have an 0 and 3. You have 2 0 and 3 teams, and the Jaguars are really, really soft with that record. So if
Yeah.
I'm the Colts, I mean, it's okay if I don't win this and look really good, and maybe we can learn a little bit more about ourselves if we were to lose this game than opposed to maybe winning it. And, I know there's people out there just kind of waiting for this Daniel Jones balloon to maybe pop.
Mhm.
But, what do we say? The Sam Darnold, which is really the Geno Smith.
Yeah.
And maybe 2025, it's the Daniel Jones.
Quick pause. If you haven't subscribed to the Bet Canada YouTube channel, you can do so below. It's free and it helps support our channel so we can keep bringing you NFL and NHL content. Now, back to the show. Well, the last time you and I spoke about Daniel Jones, it's right when he was announced that he was the starter. I wasn't alone in this. I had questions, I had concerns. That feels like a lifetime ago now. What is the biggest difference you see in Daniel Jones from his time to the Giants with now? Because to me, he looks like a completely different player. He looks decisive, he looks in control. My only concern maybe is how many big hits he's taking right now. But other than that, I just love how he's playing right now. What's the biggest difference you see in him?
I think the situation you kind of look at it is the Colts chose him. And, they chose him. He was a free agent. There were teams courting the Colts. Obviously, hey, 1 year, 14 million. There were certainly plenty of teams where Daniel Jones was kind of on the radar. I
Mm,
think once it came out, the Colts were at 1 year, 14 million. Everybody kind of put their wallets back in their pocket. Oh, no, I got no extra cash. Oh, I didn't realize Daniel Jones was going to go for that type of market. And then I think even more for Daniel Jones was we have Anthony Richardson, and this was a head coach, this was a general manager. They drafted Anthony Richardson, and they still chose Daniel Jones.
yeah.
So for Daniel Jones, even if there was any questioning of his own confidence, here's a franchise that gave you a large amount of money. Here's a franchise that now chose you over a guy that they are paying an even larger amount
Yeah.
of guaranteed money to, and felt that you were the best fit to maybe, and what did we say? Maybe somebody's head's got to roll in Indianapolis for messing up the Anthony Richardson pick.
Mhm.
But now these people whose, butts may kind of could have been on the line invested in Daniel Jones. And now Daniel Jones is essentially paying them back for their investment into him. There probably isn't a better feel good story right now. And it's certainly not going to get the pub it deserves because it is
Mhm.
Indianapolis. It's a smaller market. But the Colts being 3-0 at this point with a guy like Daniel Jones, and people get so negative on Daniel Jones, but meanwhile, he's kinda like the kid who grew up next door to you. He's just, wholesome, good guy. There's no negatives. I mean, yes, he's had his issues on the field,
Mhm.
but there was never anything about lashing out at coaching. There was never pointing fingers, blaming anybody else. And, we all love a good redemption story. And for a
Yeah.
guy like Daniel Jones, maybe this is it. And maybe playing in a smaller, market,
Yeah.
Indianapolis is something better because New York is great, but for a lot of professional athletes, it's not necessarily all it's cracked up to be
Yeah.
because you're the hero all the time. But that one time you're not the hero, it's not that you had a bad game. It's now all of a sudden you're Satan.
You're gonna hear about it. You're right, it is a really good feel-good story this year, and talk about a franchise that really could use one right now with his daughters taking over Jimmy Irsay, as you were talking about. Let's move to the other side of the ball. So the Rams, that was such an interesting game because they played almost a perfect first half of football in Philly, and then they blew a 19-point lead. Are you concerned at all about the collapse in the second half, or would you just attribute it to how good the Eagles are? Like, I'm not that worried about the collapse. I just think the Eagles are a really, really good team. The Rams look good.
My thing, and what I was actually saying to some friends was, is if I'm the Rams, I don't want to be up 19. Because, like, if it's 19, you kinda, like, poking the bear a little bit. Like, now
Yeah.
if you're only up 6, say you're up 9, it still feels like it's a game. When it's 19, now you have Eagles coaches, going to players and calling them out maybe essentially. "Well, what are we doing, dude? We're home. We're losing to Los Angeles Rams." And meanwhile, people don't forget, last year in January, the Rams were literally knocking on the door to maybe beating Philadelphia in the playoffs in Philadelphia, so it wasn't that
We had said
strange.
that. They were the team that
Yes.
got the closest to beating Philly last year in the playoffs. We had talked about that in our
So it
preview.
was not that strange that the Rams were able to give them a game.
Mhm.
I really think, Devontae Adams going there, and it wasn't so much Cooper Cup leaving, but Devontae, I always felt that Cooper Cup and Puka, it kind of was a thing where it was like they kind of canceled each other out because I think both best attributes were kind of the same. And now where it's Devontae Adams and it's like, put me outside on the island. I want no part of this inside stuff. I just want to run my routes,
Mhm.
be here on the outside, which is really obviously had Puka really get back to what we grew accustomed to from Puka Nakua back in 2023. The NFC West is certainly interesting, though. I mean, everybody's kind of playing well out there, and it's going to
Yeah.
go all. There's no question it's going to go all 18 weeks. And for the Rams, the other question I just have is, I mean, it feels like they did so much for Stafford to physically get him to week 1. Where do we have 18 weeks here of Matthew
You always
Stafford?
wonder with Stafford. Yep.
I mean, we had
Especially
to
as he
patch
gets
him
older.
together. I mean, who God knows what kind of horse needles they were putting into that back or whatever just to get him to week 1. Now, are we gonna get 18 weeks? But, the Rams, that defensive line, I absolutely love.
Mm,
They drafted 4 guys over the course of 2 years that were a little bit older. Most teams didn't want any part of these guys because they weren't the traditional 21 and a half years old, but these guys are all gelling at the same time.
mm.
Interior, outside, they all get after the quarterback. They're all good pass rushers. The Rams, have a really nice build to them as far as, what their offense can do. I think the secondary is maybe still a little bit of a work in progress, and maybe that's where they can get picked on. But, Stafford's been doing it forever. Devontae Adams has been doing it forever. Puka
Yep.
Nacua looks like a guy that just nobody has any answers for because you can find 72 different ways to get the ball in his hands, and he seems to excel any which way you do it. As long as the line stays together and holds
Mm.
together for the Rams, they should be able to put up yards. They should be able to put up points.
Who do you have winning this one? I feel like this is the toughest test for the Colts for sure. The Broncos I thought would be a tougher test, but I'm actually not as high on them now as I was heading into the season. But I think I have the Rams in this one, but the Colts will make it close. What do you have?
Just real quick on the Broncos, and this is one we always, we did a lot of talking about. The thing when I look at the Denver Broncos offense right now, what do I say about teams' defenses, Katie? Who is the guy with 2 minutes to go in the game that's going to make the play for the difference for that defense?
Yep,
When
the
I look
game
at that
wrecker.
Broncos offense right now, who is the game changer? It doesn't look like it's Bo Nix. I don't see it being Cortland Sutton. Who is the guy when they need a play late in the fourth quarter on that offense is going to be the guy that makes it? I'm actually going to
Mhm.
take the Colts. Because
Okay.
I think the Colts go into this game, and if you're smart, and if you're Steichen, and you coach this team correctly into this game, this is the grandest stage of all of the NFL right now. And guess what? We don't have to win. We literally are playing with house money.
Mm,
So go out there, play loose, play free. This is where everybody wants to play. This is the stadium of the NFL right now. And you know what? Do we get talked about as the top of the AFC, or are we the Indianapolis Colts who probably have the best shot of winning, the AFC South? It's a great spot to be in if you're the Colts because this game truly doesn't matter, and you can just go out and play loose,
mm.
free, and try to go ruin a whole bunch of people's day in SoFi in LA.